Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN 1287, and I believe it's been reserved, but it could be released and pop up back for sale, so that's why I still do these. For sale at Carvana in the New England area, Maryland, $44,000 with 87,000 miles. It's 1H9 Nebula Gray with LA20 black interior. And as I said, it's marked purchase pending, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the info out there just in case. It's a Utah, Georgia, South Carolina car from start to 2018. And since 2018, basically the last 8 years, it's been in Virginia and Maryland, and it looks like it's been somebody's daily driver. So the first thing that would come to mind knowing that is look underneath and see how rusty it's gonna be. Production statistics. Nebula Gray Pearl 1H9, it is a 2016 only color. On these cars, 157 were produced for the US 49 out of those 2,347 cars. 90 had LA20 black interior, so that's 3.83% of all the production had this color combination, so it's pretty rare. It's like an 8 out of 10, only because it's a one-year only color and they didn't make a lot of them. So there's 157, 90 with black interior. So for 2016, obviously since it is a one-year only color, that amounts to about 11% of all of the 2016s were this color. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 4-owner, no accident car. Epic VIN shows this as a 3-owner, no accident car. And I think Epic VIN may be correct, kinda, and you'll see here in a minute why. AutoCheck shows this as a 4-owner, no accident car. And so I say that because when we get into the previous sales, you'll see why I think this might be a 3-owner car. Previous sales. March of 2016, $88,000 on sale in Utah, and it looks like the dealer bought it and titled it as a dealer vehicle. So sometimes you see it, they take inventory, or they take it into their inventory, something like that, and they drive it as a service loaner, but this dealer actually titled it, and they probably were tired of it sitting around for sale for almost 9 months in December of 2016 after not selling it. And then it looks like they sent it to auction with about 1,000 miles on it, and a third-party dealer bought it and put it up for sale in January of 2017 for $65,000, February of 17 for $64,000. It went to a different dealer in February of 17, $65,000, and then they sent it to auction again in March of 2017. Does nobody want this car? And now it pops up for sale after being sold at auction in Georgia, March of 2017 for $66,000, and it finally sold in April of 2017. So if you're following and doing the math, it really wasn't sold to its first owner for a year and a month, but the first owner on paper, according to Carfax and AutoCheck, calls it the second owner because the original dealer titled it. So that's why I think Epic VIN and AutoCheck and Carfax are differing. I think technically it's a 3-owner, no accident, but on paper, it's a 4-owner because the original dealer titled it. So a year and a month to get it sold, and it looks like it took, discounting it, like $22,000, $23,000 off of the original price to get it sold to the first owner. And that's pretty common, and that's pretty typical. You hear me say this in all these videos. These cars didn't sell well at $90,000 and the dealers didn't want to discount them, so that's why they sat around for sale. They finally started selling when they discounted them $15,000, $20,000+. So around the $70,000 mark is where the general public that wanted these cars, where they sold. And if they would have been priced that way, they probably would have sold 4, 5 times as many of them. So next up, it was listed L certified in August of 2018 for $59,000 with 20,000 miles, and it sold a month later to a buyer in Maryland. So then this car, after 2018, came to Maryland and Virginia. Private sale in February of 2022. Looks like it stayed in Maryland, 56,000 miles or so when that happened. And now, January 2026, somebody traded it in to Carvana, 87,000 miles for $44,000. So now onto the photos. The carbon fiber is delaminating on the driver's front door, maybe the passenger door, and definitely on the center console, just starting. But it looks like the front two were like a DIY finish because you can see that the texture on it, it's not an even gloss. It kind of has a rough texture to it. So somebody probably peeled the the resin off and clear coated over it, something like that. That's kind of what this looks like. I've seen that on a couple of cars. Looks better than the delaminating carbon fiber, but to people that look at this stuff all the time, you can definitely tell that those have been repaired and refinished. Maybe not the best, but you can tell. The car looks like it needs a pretty good interior detail. It's got like random stains on plastic pieces and things like that. I don't know if that's coffee or something else. You can see indentations in the back seat, so it had like a child seat in it, so probably had kids in it, maybe stuff flinging around, who knows. But really, overall, it looks like a car with almost 100,000 miles, 10 years old, should. It's been used. It definitely looks like it was probably somebody's daily driver. And so the question I would have would be, how rusty is it underneath? So that would be, if I'm looking at this car, that's something I would definitely take a look at. But brakes, they look okay. It look like they've probably been recently replaced. The rotors don't have a really significant lip on it. There is a scratch on the driver's door and a pretty significant scratch on the rear bumper, but overall, not terrible for a car, again, with 100,000 miles on it. So for the price, $44,000 is pretty fair. When it nears $100,000, the price on the 16s is somewhere around $40,000. That's kind of where things have gone to for a car with 100,000 miles. So I think at 43, 44 with 87, it's probably not too far off from where the market is. These cars get mileage sensitive when they get above 60, 70,000 miles. And so this would be an instance of that. If this car had 150,000, it should be like 34, 35. If it has 100,000, it should be around 40. So this car at 43, 44, again, not too far off of where I would expect to see it for sale. Now onto the service history. It looks pretty well dealer service too. The first entry of note is June of 2017. The low pressure fuel pump was reprogrammed. That's something that affected a lot of the early cars. Hear like a humming or a buzzing in the back seat. And so this has been reprogrammed and that should not be an issue. 10,000 miles, November of 2017. They noted obvious damage to the underbody and they got an alignment. So it sounds to me like they hit something but the obvious damage to underbody. It doesn't say what else they did or what they observed, just that there's damage. So maybe, that was a long time ago, so maybe that's something you don't need to worry about, but if you're gonna do a mechanical inspection, pre-purchase inspection, definitely get it up in the air and look underneath. August of 2018, the JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. Good to see that that is done and out of the way. October of 2018, front grille piece had popped out on the passenger side. So for some reason on these cars, the passenger side front grille, it just gets pressed in very easily and there's no updated part for it. So if you buy a replacement, it's gonna do it too. It's just the way that it clips to the back of the bumper, it just doesn't work very well and it doesn't always stick in place. And so it looks like that's what it was here. Yeah, so I have that constant issue on my orange car. The blue car doesn't seem to have the problem with it, but the orange car, the passenger front grille, and it's just the way they are. And it's kind of a pain, but it's something that you're gonna see on a lot of these service histories. January of 2019, they noted that it looks like the suspension is sitting higher on one side than the other. And again, an issue with that right front grille, but they noted this time that it has impact damage, so they hit something. And as far as the suspension goes, doesn't look like they had any issues or concerns. I'm sure the tech probably measured, but no issues. November of 2020, the KLG was done. That's customer service program for the GPS location. So if you're on the main highway, it may show you off to the side, or it gets overly sluggish or dropping the Bluetooth, things like that. There's an update for it, and this car has already had it done. June of 2022, carbon fiber trim delaminating on the dash, both pieces, and the front door, both pieces. And they were quoted $3,700 to replace that. So they declined it. They also had a complaint about the shifting. Felt in sport mode, it felt like it was slipping. And I know exactly what they're talking about, having owned these. So if the transmission's not fully warmed up, and it takes a while on these cars have 12 quarts of fluid to heat up 3 gallons of transmission oil that has to come up to temperature. The transmission computer and the ECU will control and restrict how the transmission shifts until it gets above 111 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it will try to slip the transmission instead of make it shift firmly to try to protect the transmission until it fully heats up. And so that's probably what's going on here. That's probably the complaint. And that's just one of those things that, like, you know, that these cars do from owning it, driving it a lot. That's how they are. July of 2023, 68,000 miles, they noted a coolant smell. What causes coolant smells on these cars? Valley plate leak or water pumps. The water pump may have a slight leak from the weep hole or something, but the tech reported, they said they were unable to verify the concern. To me, that sounds like a cop-out, but it could be water pump leaking, maybe very slowly. It could be valley plate. You're not just gonna randomly have a coolant smell and think, oh, it's fine. That usually means there's something wrong if you can smell coolant. At that same service, they did the 60,000 mile service with spark plugs, so that's great to see that that's done on here too. August of 2023, 3 of the 4 wheels were repaired or refinished, and the last service in October of 2025, 85,000 miles, is an oil change. And there are several services at a third party from like 2023 to current, and it looks like it's things like oil changes and tires rebalanced, alignments. I don't see brakes on there, but it looks like what I'm seeing so far on the photos, it probably doesn't need brakes, but it may need tires, so that's something to look at too. So what's not done? The carbon fiber obviously still has the issues, and the fronts were repaired, not to my satisfaction, but the fronts have been repaired. The valley plate, that would be the big thing on this car. 16s, most of them are getting of that age. Time and heat cycles, not mileage, is what affects them. So I would fully expect that if you do a pretty in-depth mechanical pre-purchase inspection, that this car would probably have a leaking valley plate if it hasn't already been replaced. The ZLZ, that is the customer service campaign, 10 years, unlimited mileage, that covers the dash from sticky, deforming, delaminating, anything like that, but does not cover the carbon fiber trim. The in-service date on this car is November 18th, 2016. So you have until November 18th of 2026 to get your dash covered free of charge by Lexus. The HVAC servo sweep, that is another thing that plagues some of these cars. It's weird how it works. It seems to be the cars in the colder climate are more affected by it, but make sure the car is fully warmed up and check, cycle through, make one side max hot, one side max cold, and then cycle through all the different modes and then switch and make sure everything responds. If it doesn't, the dealer will offer to do a HVAC servo sweep. It's out of the coverage period, but they will do it for about an hour of labor. And the servo sweep resets and relearns the max and minimum limits for all of the blend doors and things like that for the hot and cold. And if it still does it after that, then you've got some servos going bad, and that's a common issue on these cars. So finally, would I buy this car? I think it would be subject to pre-purchase mechanical inspection on this car. The valley plate, how rusty is it underneath? What was that coolant smell? So, you know, that could be valley plate or water pump, something like that. The water pump, I've replaced it myself on the blue one. It's not overly difficult to do yourself, but it is kind of messy. That is something that I would be concerned with on this car. Maybe tires, but it just looks like it was daily driven. So it's not gonna be, you know, a collectible, low mileage, pristine example. It's one you can get in and not feel guilty about putting miles on. And so for that reason, I would buy it, but again, subject to the reasons I've listed, the rust, but like maintenance wise, it seems like it's fairly well maintained too. So no accidents. It would just, for me, it would be the rust. So some of you guys that live up there, that doesn't bother you. I'm in Texas, it bothers me, but that's my problem. That's not your problem. So anyway, that's what I've got for you. It's probably worth checking out if it comes back up for sale. If not, somebody got a fairly good deal on it. You know, I would call it market equivalent. It's not a crazy deal, not a terrible deal, just kind of right in the middle. So anyway, that's what I've got for you guys. VIN 1287. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.